Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we have another update bringing us some cool new things. We're going to talk all about that. We're going to look at what these new parts do, how they work, where they came from, and do some other experiments because as you may know, I just love whenever Stormworks gets an update, it changes the way you build or look at certain creations. Now I know right here behind me it kind of looks like a strange jumble of things. It'll all make sense in a second, but first we'll jump to the update notes. Version 1.15.5, the Flexible Hopper Belts update. Now if you follow my content, you may have heard me say that I wish we got the ammo belt concept onto hoppers. Well, here it is. So I'm not going to take the full credit, but I'd like to think I played a part in that. So they've added a new belt part for connecting the hoppers together, making it easier for ore, mining, fishing, etc. So awesome. I find, that we don't nearly have enough hopper and material things, and I think this will tie in perfectly. They've also added a new toggle to allow or disallow modded components and servers, so online stuff. And this is really cool, they've added a new electric node to some of the train wheels to assist players in making trains. Now this was actually requested in one of the Q&A sessions that I talked about, and I noted that the developers said that this would be really good for the game. So it's cool that we now have that option. There's some fixes, Geometa logo when you turn the game on. If we go down here to the actual features, it says we got the flexible hopper belts to connect hopper parts together, checkbox to control if modded components are allowed, constant value to control radar and sonar noise, electric node for some train wheels to emulate the third rail, and the Geometa logo. Ultimately, which brings us to this. So you could see, first glance, the hopper attached nice and smoothly to this hopper. And you see here we have the train assembly with an electric node. We will go through the train assemblies first, so I went through all of them. I found that we have the train wheel assembly X3 or ×3, that one has the electric node. We have X2 with the electric node, and none of these other ones except for the one right here. Train wheel assembly classic. So you can see that it has an electric node, and when you put it here, that electric node is found right there, and it says electrical power connection receives electric energy from the rail lines. Now, that's a very neat concept. I bet a lot of you had the question, did they change the map to add a visual third rail? And the answer is no. So you could see here the map still looks the same, but now we actually get the node to power the train through some of the wheel assemblies. Now keep in mind, in North America we have diesel electric trains such as this, and really only in municipal systems do you get power from a line above or from a third rail, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a great idea and may really come in handy for certain things. Now the ones that I've used, or the wheel assemblies that I've used here, are the single ones. They don't have access to any of the electricity, but if we go and find the train wheel ×2, for example, see if it fits first of all. Yeah, it does. So in this instant, and obviously I've butchered my train, it's not going to really work anymore, but the point being that now here I have the ability to directly attach this to whatever I want, my electrical systems for example, and they would then get power. So is this kind of like, well, I wouldn't say cheap, but does this kind of make it a bit, unrealistic now that you have kind of just endless power flowing? So in essence now what you can do is you can drive your trains without any repercussion of energy whatsoever. Obviously we're not paying the electricity bills here. So this is kind of free energy. That said, I see a lot of cool builds that would work really nicely with this, and to the developers' actual point, people have asked and requested these types of things for some time now, including requesting like a line flying above the track, like an actual electrical line, what you see in some municipal or town kind of train systems. Personally, I really wouldn't like to see that, And I'm not bashing that idea. I just find that you don't really see systems that are this far reaching, that have, you know, electricity lines above, even though there'd probably be the option to remove the remove the physical thing, but I feel like it's a lot of effort. This is kind of a low effort way for the developers to give the community something that they want, and now you can have power for smaller trains, for big trains, whatever it is you want. Now we have the ability. So that is awesome. It's changing the way that trains work in the game. Obviously, there's people that play with infinite electricity. I'm not one of those people, but there are. So in those instances, you definitely want to have, you know, people now can play with building trains and whatnot and have that ability very easily. Now, like I mentioned, the smaller style wheel assemblies, they don't have the electric node, which is fine. Our high rail vehicles get power from other sources. That's still awesome. And again, huge kudos to the developers for giving us the wheel release. This is something that has been talked for so long, and I know this wasn't in this update, but just props for us getting it. Now, developers, if you're listening to me, one really neat thing to get on our ships would be the ability to lay tracks. And I think I talked about this in an update idea, or if I didn't talk about it, I definitely had a plan to. But now that we can remove and load trains, wouldn't it be nice if we just had like a big train track type thing that we could lay? I mean, there's nothing here that can really emulate what I'm trying to say, but in essence this, and it would act like a magall for the train wheels, where we could just drop the locomotive onto the train with the crane, and it would automatically link up to the train track, right? It would link up to the train track, and it wouldn't want to leave the train track until we went ahead and disconnected this node, this property here. So that is one thing that I'd really like to see, to really tie the whole concept of the game fully together, because right now we could build in essence everything and anything, placing things onto each other, you know, all that stuff, interaction, but there's not really an ability to place. Well, there is now. You could take the physical locomotive off the train tracks, put it on a ship with magalls, I guess, but I'd like to see a very simple track element acting as a magall for the train. No curves, nothing fancy, just straight pieces for ferrying things, putting things onto a ferry or otherwise barge, that type of stuff. And now for the hopper idea. So hoppers, minerals, that type of thing. If we type in coal, then you kind of get all these things. I think you really have to type coal, fishing, because minerals doesn't seem to give you this. See, mineral only gets you the mineral drill. Duct gets you kind of these things, but also the jet engines. So coal is kind of the keyword that I type in whenever I'm trying to get any kind of hopper type situation. So we see we have our regular old hoppers, but now we have the flexible duct. So flexible resource duct transports resources through the connected system. They can be connected by rope nodes to one another. I went ahead and connected this top one to the bottom one just for a very simple example, and my oh my does it look great. It looks awesome. I'm so happy with how this is, because now we can actually emulate kind of conveyor belts. I know there's not an actual conveyor inside there, but it doesn't matter. You could now put a funnel duct right here. You could load minerals in here. Whatever the case is, like you could have like your trucks offloading or whatnot. You could have things going down there. Like what? Just it makes me really happy to see things like this in the game that pretty much give us a kind of new life to certain parts, I will say. So that's really cool. Let's just see how this works. Also, by the way, developers, if you are listening, another one of my hugely wanted suggestions would be a large flip switch, or otherwise mechanical thing that we can have buttons without electricity. So in this case, no electricity, but we are connected here, we are connected here, and now we have a fully non-electric system that is able to dump coal. Anyway, look at that. How awesome is that? You have hoppers up there, you have this here. Oh, I'm so happy with this one. This is really, really cool, because now you have so much potential. Like, you could make a whole coal facility if you really want, and you could have, you know, loading hoppers here. You could have like a truck ramp. I'm not going to do it really quickly, but anyways, you could have a truck ramp coming to this, or this could be under the ground. In a lot of cases, in a lot of the facilities I've worked on, they had a truck unloading pit, or train unloading pit, mind you, something like this, and that would be actually below grade. And then now, even though this is halfway across the facility with the right part, you can put that. And I wonder what happens if I put it sideways on this one. Like, what if I orientate it like that? I'm just curious what's going to happen. I do think it's going to have to twist. But anyways, let's see. So now you can have your truck unloading pit. You could have your hopper storage area. You could have unloading or dumping into vehicles. You could have a whole contraption for reloading that same, like a truck unloading. And then over here, we can actually build a truck loading. Now, I've worked on enough of these facilities that I could go into lots of realistic detail, but for now, let's just get the visual point across. In essence, we do something along these lines. So we could attach another one to here, probably not to that side, and probably you'd want a bit more of a straight shot. Like, I personally wouldn't have this one twisting down to here, but rather what I would do personally is have it have a transfer tower. In real life, that's also another thing I work on a lot, is you'd have, anytime you have a conveyor kind of moving, changing directions or whatever, in real life there has to be a transfer point. And in that transfer point or transfer tower, you would have a chute, you'd have a hopper, and minerals would fall onto another platform, etc., etc. I'm going on, but there is a lot of places where we could really take this. Let's see this. All right, so obviously that's below grade. That looks okay. I mean, again, I love the curvature in the game, but like, see, that I don't like. And that's what happened when I changed the direction of the thing. This one too would be a little more realistic with the transfer tower I was talking about. So we learned that the best practice is to keep the orientation in the same direction. So if we wanted these, we'd keep those kind of side nodes facing in the same direction. And likewise for this. Now, let's see how this would work. Well, in essence, that has to go to the higher one, and you'd have a duct or chute falling onto a lower one there, which goes up to that one there. So you'd have this attached there. You'd have, we'll see how this works, this attached to there, and then that one we don't need right now. So that's kind of, in real life, this one would fall in here, drop down there, and go up there. So we actually don't need the rest of this height. It would be a very small transfer tower. Anyway, long story short, we get this. Obviously, yes, you still walk through them, which is fine. That's how we expect and know and love Stormworks. And another thing is, if you did disconnect the body from said thing, it kind of becomes a piece that you can actually move around a little bit, and this kind of snakes. Now, people did have a very, very interesting test for me to do. Granted, they wanted me to do the test with the ammo belts, but here we are with the hopper system. And what the test was, or what people wanted me to do or see, was, do these have less of kind of flexibility and bunginess, if you will, than the ropes. So if we attach these two things together, we can see we're kind of pulling this mass. Now it's 3,000, so it's a lot without being like crazy a lot. Of course. Try that again. So, is there less flexibility than in a rope? Gotta try this test again with this scenario. Alright, and up we go. It looks a little less bungee at the upper end, but on the lower end it actually is more stretchy, so it actually comes down more. Interesting little test. Definitely didn't expect that, but anyway, long story short, it doesn't really make sense to use this for transporting things, just because you can't really connect and disconnect it. Like, you'd have to have a pre-built connector attached to your helicopter or whatever, then with magulls or electric connectors or whatever, that has kind of a duct system. So I would say that myth is busted, but one thing that I could kind of see being quite neat in some instances, and maybe I do this, maybe one of you beat me to the punch, it really doesn't matter, but if I had, say, a hopper transport helicopter, or mineral transport, or whatever you want to call it, now, technically, I could have made some kind of system. Well, in the past, good luck, you'd have to physically attach your coal hopper to whatever it is you're trying to drop from, or otherwise you'd have to really put a good amount of effort and thought into lining up. Now, actually, check this out. So we have our hopper up here, and what I'm going to do is put one of these flexible ducts, and then you could put another flexible duct, let's say here, but you probably would want to put it further out. So let's go down to like there. Now, we don't have a lot of space in this helicopter, but that's still better than nothing. And on the end of this, we could put a duct, or we could put a vacuum, or you could put both. So you could have, if you had two hoppers in here, then you'd be able to do this system for both of them. But in essence, something along these lines like this, attached to here, will then let you lower this system. And you could use this in a ship, you could use this in a conveyor belt, you could use this on a crane, right? But now, what you do is, this is attached to this, and then all you need are cable anchors, probably, or otherwise a, what do you call it? Rope anchors. So I'm just going to put this here for temporary purposes. So you could put something like this, and then we'd bring back this guy. Just like that. And this obviously gets attached to this. And then what I would do, personally, is have some winches. So you'd want winches. You don't even need large ones. You're probably good enough for these. The only thing that I don't know yet is whether or not you could control the hopper release button from a external source. So most likely you'd want to put medium winches, because you could actually put channels through it. I think a small, no, see, small doesn't even have the on-off input, but this one does. So if you put this in this, you could actually run, and see, I put it on the wrong side. Like, you'd actually need to mirror the winches on either side of the hopper as such, and put it attached to this, and put it attached to this. Obviously symmetrical, not what I've done here, but in essence, as long as those winches go up and down at the same time, this here could be attached to this on-off input, which could be attached to this on-off input. So then all you have to do in your helicopter or crane or whatever is have a toggle button, and you'd have this turn on that on-off input, and that would then release that from this hopper. So now in the helicopter, we could winch this cable up, and as it kind of enters into this, it'll pull this up into a nice tight pouch like that, and then we could take off. Now, fun fact, I literally made a similar situation like this for a project. It was on a fixed tower though, it wasn't on a helicopter, but the idea is the same. So now we could put altitude hold, position hold, make our way over there, and then obviously we'd be lower to the ground. But now, if you do this, this will actually drop out from your whatever it is, helicopter, boat, tower, crane. Now you're only limited by the original length, right? So in this case you gotta stop because this won't expand any further, whereas the cable will want to keep going. And then if you press the release button, of course you start to drop the material. But in essence, this would let you position your crane or your helicopter or whatever right over top of some sort of hopper system and allow you to take it out. So I'm super excited for this update. If you can't tell, it kind of ties in what I do in real life to the game. It gives us more realism, and it makes transporting fish, rocks, whatever, that much cooler. So love it. Thank you so much, developers. So anyway, let me know what you think of my ideas or the update itself. I'm really happy to see it, as you can't tell, but thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. Stay tuned for much more content. And again, huge shout out to my Discord server boosters and my YouTube members. These guys are my supporters. They give me extra support and I reward them with stuff. Right now, there's actually a mini build challenge going on with these supporters, so I may make a video of that after the fact, but we'll see. And I want to thank the game developers, my moderator and admin team, and all of you lovely people for watching these videos, for commenting, for participating, and for being a part of the community. So until next time, happy Stormworksing, everyone.